Just a heads up, I'm advising you to listen to this podcast episode in a faster speed than 1.0 because I've been having a lot of audio issues in recording this, so you'll hear the fluctuations if you listen to this in the regular speed. So just a warning. Thank you for being here and enjoy. This whole thing is not to ask permission from the person. No, not at all. It's actually to get them on the same page as you. Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm Dianne 𝗔𝗫𝘀, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Well, hello. Thank you so much for being here and tuning in to another episode of Parenting Guide Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast. I'm so happy you're here because why not? I love that you're here and tuning in and taking me along with you on your everyday journey, whether you're in the car or just tidying up at home, getting ready for everyone to come home, or even just closing the day. So today's podcast episode is another good one because it's touching on the topic of resistance and what we can do to avoid it or make it less resistant. Now, I'm not talking about the kids because, they too can be resistant to any change or to do extra chores. But what happens if it's our partner who's resistant to any change, like any decluttering or organizing activity that's about to happen? Just so you know, it's totally normal that you might come up with a little resistance or a lot in that area. So this episode is about what to do before decluttering or even organizing to avoid or reduce the amount of resistance that could happen with any kind of change happening in the house. So are you ready? Let's do this. Before we get started, I just want to know if you've picked up my PO cheat sheet yet. What's it about? Well, if you're looking to finally tackle those back burner projects like the overstuffed closets, unorganized kitchens, or neglected garages and storage spaces, now thinking of hiring a professional organizer has got you overwhelmed. What questions do you ask aside from how much and when can you start? What are other things to consider before your first consultation? Using my cheat sheet will help guide you through with getting your thoughts organized and asking those commonly missed questions. There are tons of pro organizers out there, and my cheat sheet will help you narrow down the right one for your project based on your specific needs, family situation, capabilities, and availability. So head to DianneJimenez.com/PO cheat sheet, all in one word. That's DianneJimenez.com/PO cheat sheet today. Now, whenever we want to do a decluttering or organizing project, and my client or even myself, because this has happened in the past, and I believe I've mentioned it in a previous episode, but whenever we're in the mindset, I'm talking about us, the person who wants to get organized, is in the mindset of getting stuff done, we got to do something first and foremost before we even start taking action. And that is to communicate. And why do I say this? Because it's happened where the partner is often a little upset that we're taking on this project and we're getting our hands in things that they may not be ready to let go of just yet, or maybe not ready to move around and then adjust the way they go about in the house, like their habits or where they move things or where they have to find things now. So it's a big adjustment for not only them, but for anybody who are suddenly faced with change. It's normal. So there are two main reasons why you need to communicate first before you even start taking action on decluttering or organizing, especially when it's a common space or even a space that has mostly their things in it. Now let's get to some real talk. You've been simmering on this, about this idea in your head for a lot longer than your partner. It could be weeks, months, even years that this whole idea or something has been planted in your head and simmering in there. Whereas your partner, this is the first time they're experiencing this. So they're not in the same headspace or even pace as you. And oftentimes, your partner may not see a reason for the change. And now seeing that you're about to make a change in your home, well, it kind of gets them a little antsy or apprehensive because what does this all mean for them? What do they have to do extra? Does this also mean that they have to help out? Does this have to mean that they have to change some of their habits? Like, who wants to do that? So don't be surprised if you get a little bit of a resistance, you get a little bit of a pushback from them. They need to process all of this and may not share your enthusiasm or understand your goals just yet. This is why it's important to communicate and have a conversation before starting your organizing or decluttering project. But I'll talk about more of that in just a bit. The next thing you got to do is be patient. Again, they have to process all of this, and it's all coming in so fast because you're excited. You want change to happen. Or you could be the total opposite and frustrated or annoyed. So either way, you're coming in hot with all of this information and determination. So let's slow down a little bit and give them that space and time. So number 2 of what to do before decluttering and organizing, be patient with them as well as yourself. All right, I get it. You're excited and you want to get this project up and running. I hear you, my friend. I hear you. So if you want to quicken the process, but gently, we need to do the next thing. And that's number 3, be specific. So the first part of being specific is explaining the when. When do you plan on doing this whole project? If your partner's on board or already good to go, then set that date and set it in your calendar. Then sync up your phones so you're both aware of when this is all taking place. After when, it's going to be how long. How long approximately will you be working on this project? Now, sometimes it's hard to guesstimate how long a project will be going on for because there's so many factors to consider here, such as speed of decision making and making sure that you have everything lined up so that you can keep moving forward. And another thing is life happens. So it's really tough sometimes. Even as a professional organizer, clients do ask, how long does it take to organize such and such space? So instead of focusing on the whole thing, try to be a little bit more specific on how long you'll be working during this project. Is it a half an hour? Is it half a day? And which days are these exactly? Is it going to be a couple of hours every single day after work this week, going into the next? So giving that kind of frequency will give your partner a good idea of when you're not available. Because remember that apprehension that I was talking about earlier and what this all entails for them and how it'll affect their life? Well, they just need a clear picture of when you won't be available, but also if they're needed in this whole project. But I'll get to that in a bit. Bottom line for being specific on how long is so your partner can just wrap their head around and make sure that it makes sense in the schedule. So the next thing about being specific is, like I just said, what do you need help with? So that's back to whether or not your partner is needed or how involved they need to be in this whole project. So this is an important part of the conversation where you're actually open and honest about what it is that you want from them. Where are you needing assistance? What type of assistance? What type of information do you need from them? And how much assistance do you need? Ever forget to wash something so you just pull it out of the hamper? How many times have the kids run out of clean underwear? And forget trying to remember the last time the sheets and blankets were even washed. Leave the guesswork and uncertainty behind and download my PDF guide right now. In this new guide I created, I walk you through step by step on how to plan and schedule your laundry items so that you'll have peace of mind knowing there's a plan to follow. When there's a plan, there's no extra thinking involved on your part. I also provide you with the tips and tricks on how to get kids started and involved. Included in this PDF guide is an example of what our laundry schedule looks like right now, so you have an idea of how it all works. Don't let laundry overload you anymore. Take control and let this guide do the thinking for you. Head to DianneJimenez.com/laundry schedule. So naturally, the next part of the conversation and communication with your partner about being specific is talking about where, like the space that you'll be working on. Now, typically, you wouldn't be discussing things if this was all about organizing your own things that don't have anything really to do with your partner, right? It's more of the common areas or the spaces that contain some or most of your partner's items. So that's why this conversation is extremely important in order to avoid any resistance before you get to declutter or organize anything. Speaking of things, we're getting to the next point of the conversation that you need to be specific about is what exactly are you decluttering or organizing? This is where the hot spot is. So if you get to this point and you still feel a resistance or you still feel that pushback from them, it might be a good time to revise your initial project and maybe move on to something that has less pushback. So for instance, if your whole goal was to, say, get rid of most of your partner's collections of something, whatever it is, something that they haven't even touched in years, well, if that has a lot of emotional attachment for them and they're expressing this in many ways that, that you haven't heard before, maybe step back from that. It's still a very sensitive topic for them, or it's something that holds a lot of emotion. And we all know this. When we're emotionally involved, it's really hard to let go of things or even to move things around. So let's pay close attention to that and let's be a little bit more sensitive and put ourselves in their place too. So a great place to maybe start is somewhere else, like a more common area with not much of their things in that common area, but something where it's kind of like a neutral ground. So it could be decluttering or organizing the kids' things, or something completely neutral like the bathroom items or the linen closet. Staying away from very sensitive topics or hot spots right now is a good idea, but it doesn't mean that you can't revisit them later. You just have to shift your project to another focus area. And hopefully with this, your partner can see the benefits of the changes that have been made from the decluttering or the reorganizing of that space. And maybe them too, at that time, they participate and see how this whole process can be easy or a lot smoother when more people are involved helping out. Another area that you can try is maybe working on your own items and your own space, because the benefit here is that you're leading by example, and where one leads, others will follow, especially if there's a positive outcome, right? For instance, you have more time, you're less stressed, it's easier to find your things and put them away, and you feel lighter, and so on and so forth. So many benefits from decluttering alone. So they may just turn around and start to declutter or minimize their own areas and their own items themselves. And maybe what you can do at this point is ask them if they need any help with their things. Why not? You're now the pro because you've done this before. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about in the specific area is the why. People need reasons, beliefs, and even some perspective before considering jumping on board for anything. So this is the reason why it's so important, if they're not on board, to give a reason why. Now, just to be clear here, that this whole thing is not to ask permission from the person. No, not at all. It's actually to get them on the same page as you. And so to help them wrap their heads around this whole project that potentially can alter or change the way they live around the house or just even their habits, they need to have some reasons and a bigger picture and all the details laid out. So this is what this whole conversation is about. So back to being specific about the why. Why does this project need to happen? Why is this whole thing making you annoyed? Or why are you excited about taking on this decluttering and organizing project? So when you explain it, just give it to them straight in black and white. There's no ho-hum story and bells and whistles. What is it that you want to achieve in the end? Is decluttering and organizing that space going to make your life a lot better? Is it going to help you reduce stress? Is it going to get you out of the house a lot faster? Is it going to get the kids to move a lot faster before school? Are things constantly in the way of getting basic stuff done? Or it can also be that you want to make sure tidying is simple and quick for everyone and that it doesn't have to fall on you all the time. Yeah, I had to add that too. So you got to get the house organized so that everything has a home finally. And it starts with decluttering, which involves getting rid of the excess sometimes. So if they're not on board, it'll be a long and tough road with a lot of resentment. And you know, that's just not good on anyone's spirit. If there's anything about this podcast episode that you want to make sure it's part of your conversation, this is it. Everything else is kind of secondary, but this is it, the why. Explain the way you see things and how moving around the house for you or how it's making you feel in the house, it's just not keeping you at peace. And in essence, it's not making you happy of the way the things are organized around the house. And finally, number 4 of what to do before decluttering or organizing, that is to be supportive and understanding. Both of you need to be supportive and understanding towards each other. This isn't an easy conversation sometimes. So take your time and know that this can be more than one conversation. There can be some follow-up conversations about it. It's not always, like organizing, a one and done thing. So I hope you liked this episode. I hope it's going to give you some direction, some guidance, and you got some takeaways from it. All in all, this whole thing is to help you and arm you with the words and perspective and mindset to have when you do decide to declutter or organize your home. Other people are involved here, even though they're probably not going to be physically involved in doing the tasks. I hope they are, but if they're not, they still need to get a heads up. And I hope this episode helped you. All right, my friends, thank you so much again for being here and being a constant listener to my podcasts. I truly, truly appreciate it. Now, if you can, I would love your review on Apple Podcasts or even subscribe to it. The more people follow, subscribe, or even rate it, Apple will recognize it as an important podcast and boost it up in the algorithm. Therefore, getting my podcast in front of people who probably need to hear these episodes. So I thank you in advance for that. All right, have a great week and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.